Hello.
Hello.
Good? Alright, good. Are you going to be able to hold it like that?
What?
Tu veux que je te prenne le trépied
No, it's good.
pour le tenir?
No, don't worry.
Alright, so what are your names?
My name is Leo.
Leo, nice to meet you.
I'm Mattis.
Mattis, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And where are you guys from?
From Germany.
From Germany. Very good. And so I asked you guys whether I could do an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Mattis immediately was excited to do it. And then once I explained it, both of you were really into it. So what did you understand from what I said about what we'd be talking about?
I think you want to ask some questions about life, not specifically about life, but about what we think about life and the questions of life.
And what about you, Mattis?
I thought you wanted to ask us questions about like the mind and the definition of how we think.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start with defining what is the mind.
What is the mind?
Yeah.
Okay, now we get into it.
It started.
You want to start or
Like,
Do you have something?
what? So, you can start. Like
Go
the
ahead,
question is, what is my definition of the mind? What I understand about the word. Okay, so I think mind is actually everything that's not the soul.
Okay.
For me, I think like all the experience I can imagine and I can refer to in the past. I think that's quite fitting for me.
Okay. And do you want to add to that, or do you want to say something?
I would say, on the scientist way, it's easy. Work a little bit how a computer, but I think that isn't all. I think there is a lot more behind of this. If you look, I don't know, to nature folks who, if you take the Aborigines, they can a little bit of telepathy and stuff like this. I think there's more than we know.
So then you guys would agree that there is a mind and then a soul that doesn't sort of obey the same rules as whatever the mind might be?
Something like a soul, yeah.
Okay, and that mind resembles sort of a computer in that it's sort of programming.
Yeah, I think it's more like the data place, maybe, and less the feeling place.
Okay.
I wouldn't say this.
You would say mind is the feeling space.
It's two. I mean, we have the hypothalamus.
Yeah.
Our
Okay.
head,
So on a science.
generate our feelings.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just correct you there. What did you say?
Hypothalamus, isn't that the?
So hypothalamus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean not that I'm correcting the pronunciation because I don't know how you pronounce it in German. But the hypothalamus is involved in the 4 F's: feeding, fighting, fucking, and something else. So there's certain primal sort of instincts as far as those. There's also the amygdala.
Amygdala.
That's what I think you were thinking of.
I was thinking of the amygdala.
Do you know about the amygdala?
It's the oldest part on our brain, and also can create a bit of DMT if we die or if we're in extreme stressy situation or life situation.
Fear,
something like this.
stress, anger. Amygdala is even involved in recording memories that are fear-based or that involved fear. And then there's the hippocampus, which does memories without sort of the emotional component.
No.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about brain structures then. Where does that fit into the mind and soul?
Sorry, again.
The brain, where does that fit in?
You mean in the soul or in?
Yeah, and we've talked about mind and soul.
I think that the soul don't have to be connected with the mind, especially. I think if we die, our memories and stuff like this is the way. But something like if you take the nicht Realität, so the Quantenphysik,
quantum physics.
So basically, the room where it's a lot of information, or could be a lot of information. I think maybe this could be, or maybe there could we go after we die. So that would be the part of the soul where it goes.
Okay. And what about the brain?
That's that.
That's that. So
I think so. Yeah.
If I removed your amygdala, you would no longer have a structure that's essential for emotional processing, fear, and things like that. Would you lose then fear if you had no amygdala?
Um, I think that would take a lot of our humanness away. if we
Okay,
lose it.
so
I think then we really just would be a computer.
so if we didn't have this brain structure called the amygdala, then we would be losing an enormous part of our soul or our essence.
Of our humanness, I think.
Yeah. And what would be left would be, you said, like a computer. So then what I'm hearing is that the soul is biological.
Mm,
Because I'm thinking about other regions as well besides the amygdala, like the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in decision making, prioritizing, shifting of attention, which are pretty human things. I'm thinking also about the temporal parietal junction here, which if you stimulate that, people will have the impression that they have left their body. So the limits of what is me and what is not me is activity here, for instance. So when I think about those things, and it sounds like you guys would accept those things, I'm hearing that maybe the soul could be biological.
That's interesting. Now we're getting there.
It's possible, huh? Maybe it doesn't feel great.
I mean,
it doesn't feel.
I would definitely say the soul have to be something which is biological, because otherwise it wouldn't exist.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to
Easier.
me too.
I mean, maybe we don't know how this biological works.
Yeah,
but
we have a lot to
it
learn
wouldn't
about
make
it.
not a lot of sense if the soul exists, that we can't see
Study
it or study it in some way. But I
Yeah.
don't think that we have the instruments or stuff like this to see it.
Yeah. And it's very recent, our understanding of this possibility that the soul might be biological. That it dates maybe max 200 years, really, before, or at least that it be the brain. Before, there were people who thought the soul was, the heart was, and the brain, all it did was cool down blood, the Egyptians. And then Plato thought you have like rationality, maybe it's the gut, and emotion is the heart, because that's where we sort of sometimes experience some things. But then recently we've been going, oh shit.
It's all in the mind.
I mean, it comes to the mind at the end. I mean, if you have a panic attack, you feel it in the body, but it comes from the mind. So
Exactly. Okay.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay. So then the last sort of topic or question is, do you know what a cognitive bias is? Do you know what an error? Can you give me an example? Or do you? Here, let me say this. We have philosophers and logicians and psychologists have been really interested in this question of our rationality. Are we rational? What are some of the errors, surprising errors, that we see on a daily basis when we really study human behavior and human decision making? And so we've identified hundreds of these things. Sometimes some of them are called biases, like the in-group, out-group bias, our preference for those who are like us, and our distrust of those who are different from us. Or some of them are fallacies, illusions, heuristics, and that just means a little shortcut in our processing. So we've identified a lot of these that aren't super reliable and that we count on every day. But so we often make a lot of mistakes. We don't realize it because we've been depending on these sort of fallible mechanisms. Do you know anything about that?
So the question is if we think that all our decisions are rational, if I understand your question.
We can ask that question. That wasn't a question, but let me hear your answer to that question.
No, absolutely not.
Excellent.
I mean, it's super rational to say, hey, I go to everybody and say hello and you will be my friend, because it just don't make sense to don't go to people, but on the other hand, you have
then sometimes you find yourself in an interview that is
in
more
an
challenging than
more
expected.
chilling. But it's, yeah, everything perhaps on our English word is missing. On the things that we have, die wir erlebt haben. Einfach auf die Sachen, die wir erlebt haben. Weißt du? Die Sachen, die man erlebt hat.
Human
Yeah,
experience.
just basically, yeah, perhaps on the experience we have made. So I don't think it would be rational at all.
How do you define rational?
It's
okay, something that's not like in our mind, we can create it logically, and we don't need input like.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry, I would say rationality is something that is only in our mind, if you want to say that.
Okay.
So we don't need. So for this, we don't need experience. So we don't need experience to know that 2 + 2 is 4. I would say.
Okay.
Do you
We-
think
we
that
kind of know it? Just,
when we are rational, our feelings aren't involved?
So I don't believe in rationality. I don't think it's a possible state. I think
mean,
the best that we can do is imitate through our
Yeah.
shortcuts
Yeah.
some sort of rationality. I define rationality as the correct treatment of information. So you receive information and you follow it correctly to the conclusion that it
Mhm.
indicates. In order for us to be able to do that, we would have to have all of our mechanisms perfectly calibrated to be able to handle any new piece of information and know what to do with it. That's why I think it's impossible. But we have evolved with, and we do learn in our lifetimes, some ways to treat information. So there are imitations of rationality that we have, but most of our mechanisms are unreliable, and so we end up producing things that are far from anything that could be considered true or useful.
Yeah. I think it's not possible to be all the time.
I think that feelings should always be taken into account because I think feelings are information. And so, like I said, if rationality is the correct treatment of information, you need to take into account how something's going to make you feel, for instance.
And also our instincts aren't.
They aren't very good. What were you going to say?
Sometimes, yeah, I mean, they are
We're
not
programmed
rational.
to trust
They are
them,
not rational.
but they aren't actually very good.
If we are in a, I don't know, big group of people and we make parties, some people maybe don't feel very good because of the instinct that a lot of people can be dangerous. But
Yeah.
that's super unlogic.
Yeah,
But it's our instinct, so
yeah.
it's difficult, I think.
No, absolutely, because we evolved spending most of our lives with sort of the same people where we can establish trust. And we also evolved to be very wary of people that we don't know who might be potential threats. And so now in our current society, we see people that we don't know, that with whom we haven't been able to establish trust all the time. And so most people will then, what the mechanisms that will run are this might be a threat mechanism, you know?
So this is this cognitive bias.
Yeah, that's one of our sort of shortcuts or mechanisms that aren't reliable. And in this case, it's because our environment has totally changed.
So, no, I don't think we're rational.
Very good. Okay, cool. Well, I'm really happy with this conversation. Would you guys like to add anything? Because I know there are some moments where I spoke. And
Not on the questions you asked. No.
what about anything else on the subject?
I don't know, what's the meaning of life?
All right, yeah, we can ask. Let's ask that. What is the meaning of life? First of all, anytime there's a question, let's check to see if there are any assumptions in the question. So what does that mean? What is the meaning of life?
What's the Sinn?
The purpose of
The
life.
purpose of life.
For me, if there's a purpose to something, that means it was made to achieve something. And for me, that's an assumption that might not be justified.
Okay, so you mean like really the
Can you take the mic
Sorry.
for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get a little bit more
Yeah, of course.
whiskey. You think?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I think
Sorry, it's a break.
it's okay. I can find my words.
Ja, kannst ja nicht verallgemeinern, kannst ja nur deine sagen.
I have to go to buy beers and another. Do you want something?
I think we
think-
still have a lot of
yeah.
beer, so weed, juice. I think we're fine.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is when you meant with your purpose of life that you are created to do something. Like, for example, a different example would be I create a scissor to cut something. So this scissor has a purpose. I created it to add.
Purposes are assigned.
Okay. So and you say we as human don't have this exact purpose.
That is what I would say next.
Okay.
yeah.
I would
I would
say that
say too.
every people
I
have
would agree.
their own,
Okay, that's
but
like
there's
the next
not
step,
one big.
because
Then you decide.
then
explanation
I
of-
would say then I decide on my own purpose because there is none. I would even say I want to live because I don't want to die. So this is like when we of course.
Yeah.
Of course,
Luckily,
the question of purpose of life is also the question about suicide. So, should I kill myself or should I live? And when I should live, I ask myself why.
For what?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have to find an answer.
luckily, because we are these biological organisms, no, my voice will carry. I'll speak a little bit louder. Because we are these biological entities, there's a lot of stuff that's pre-programmed, just like for other species, for other animals. And included in that is a certain will to live. There's some mechanisms that are saying we have to stay here because we're not the descendants of people who are like, nah,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
you know.
Okay.
Now, of course, that can happen, but even they had an instinct to live, but then there's just enough to overwhelm it in a sense. But then, so maybe I would say we don't need to justify our will to live, but since we have that will to live anyway, to find something to do with it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I would say there are a lot of things that make us happy, or we need to be happy. So I don't know. We need some people around us.
Yes,
That
and
makes
that's
us
part of
happy.
our programming.
That's part of our programming. We need maybe something for what we live, so a job or for surfing,
Something for our time,
or something like this.
something that gives us rewards. For
So
the
I would say
accomplishments.
if you take all these easy things, so have a family, maybe have a girlfriend, and when you all have this, I think the only reason to live is to have a nice life and have fun. And I think it's not possible to say my life sense is to be always happy, because I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
But
Agree.
which is possible is, I think, that you're happy with how you live. So, also zufrieden ist das genaue Wort.
Okay.
It might be difficult to translate.
Zufrieden.
Zufrieden gibt's eine Übersetzung. So that
There is no English word for that.
that you're
Maybe.
happy with
Maybe
the
there's
things that you have in your life and how you live your life
Contentment
and
might
and
be.
Contentment is like
and how you
the
are.
beginning.
But of course, you can't be always happy, because it's impossible, and that would be make no sense. Because if you're always happy and never sad, we are never happy.
So I understand happiness more as a feeling and more of a short-term feeling. And what Leo just said, Zufriedenheit in German, is like more of a consistent. How do you?
I'm happy with my life, but maybe not happy today.
Yeah.
So rather than your mood, your reaction to the moment, it's more of a reaction to your circumstances and your direction.
Right. So, like I say, I am zufrieden with my life, and I have a car accident, and I just say, okay, that's unlucky, that's bad, but I still am zufrieden.
Fulfillment is also a good word. I think that
Yeah,
relates to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I think what we could use what you said and define the meaning of life as the fulfillment of our basic and positive valence needs. Valence being, do you understand what valence is?
Yeah.
So that would be good.
That, and then, I think that's it, basically. I mean, and there's the thing, this is different from person to person, because you have the things that you have a family and stuff like this, but also I'm happy when I go surfing every day. So it would be a part of mine. Somebody is happy when he plays piano every day. I have a music.
So it's about finding what you're programming. The word that I have for that is, I have a word called avant, which is something that your programming finds favorable, and then averse is something that your programming avoids. And so you identify the things that you avant, and you do those things.
Yeah, but I think this only comes with time. So I don't think
you have to discover what you want.
If you start your life, you can't have a meaning of life out of to live and have a nice life.
Because you have to discover those things.
You have to I mean, you can have a
absolutely.
family and all this stuff, and then you're happy. But the next step after this is what I mean. When you're happy with your life, and then I think when you have this, then you can find your
And we had all those categories
passion
like
for
family
life.
and job, and then we have like what we spend our time with.
Yeah.
And this is like something that has, for me, it needs passion. It needs something.
And that's a major change in our culture, is that before we didn't have this thing where you do a job to get money or to be able to eat, and then you do a hobby. It was that we're programmed to enjoy hunting, to enjoy getting berries, to enjoy, doing that with our family and stuff. So there wasn't this work-life balance.
Yeah.
Life was
Work.
living,
Yeah.
and life involved doing what you
Yeah.
need to do to live,
And I would say, find this.
Huh?
Then I would say, find exactly this.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just that we go hunting and find berries. It's our instinct. So also a thing like surfing or
Yeah.
playing piano that's in us. If
Yeah.
you like this is
Yeah.
something
Hunting,
deeper
our
inside.
hunting mechanisms can really be applied to any accomplishment, any development. The feeling of success when you've achieved something you want to achieve. Of course, it's easy to just look at society and say, so what does society say I have to achieve? Okay, then that's what I have to achieve, Then you have people who are 45 years old who are pleasing society their whole life and are like, wait, fuck, but that's not actually what I wanted.
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing. So you have to get to the step where you say, okay, I found something.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I think you have it.
Awesome. All right.
Maybe just for a short time of life, and then you found a new.
And
I
then
don't
discover a new
think that
thing.
it's
not
that
fixed. No.
You just found it once, and then you're happy all the time.
No.
But for a short time life period of your life, you can find it again and again, and you can lose it again and find it again, and lose it again and find it again, and that's life.
Let's end with that for advice for our viewers.
Right.
To say that don't think that the thing that you thought would bring you happiness at 18 is the thing that you need to spend your whole life on.
Absolutely.
That it's okay to grow, it's okay to change, and it's okay to adapt to that.
It's needable to change a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, not always. Some people find their passion with 18, all is good, but I think it's very important
it's the mind
be
since
open
13.
to still be open and
Yes, absolutely.
don't close it.
Awesome. Thank you
Never.
so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Was
And
a nice
I
interview.
really enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too.